So, let's rewind to college. I met Emily during our freshman year, and from day one, it was like we were two pieces of a puzzle that fit perfectly together. We were that couple everyone seemed to look at and say, they're so perfect for each other. And honestly, I believed it. We had everything in common: same interests, same goals, same sense of humor. Our friends even joked that we were joined at the hip. It felt like a fairy tale, and I thought our relationship was as solid as they come. As college life moved on, our bond grew stronger. We supported each other through exams, late-night study sessions, and the typical college chaos. We were the type of couple that everyone admired, and I thought we were invincible. When graduation came, we both landed jobs and decided to take the plunge and get married. I was thrilled and thought this was the beginning of our forever. But soon after we tied the knot, I started to notice a shift. The spark that was there in college seemed to dim. Emily, once so vibrant and full of life, began to grow distant. It wasn't a sudden change, but a gradual one that I tried to rationalize. We went from sharing everything, our hopes, dreams, and daily experiences, to barely talking about our days. I kept telling myself it was just the stress of our jobs and the whole adulting thing. We were both working long hours, juggling responsibilities, and trying to figure out this whole grown-up life. But there was always this nagging voice in the back of my head that couldn't shake the feeling that something was seriously off. Now, let me introduce my older brother, Chris. Chris has always been the charming, golden child of the family. He's the type of guy who walks into a room and instantly becomes the center of attention. He's charismatic, outgoing, and has a knack for making everyone around him feel special. But he also has this mischievous side that often bordered on obnoxious. Growing up, Chris was the king of pranks. Whether it was hiding my favorite toys, swapping the sugar for salt, or setting up elaborate booby traps in the house, he was always coming up with new ways to annoy me. I remember one time when I was preparing for a big exam. I had set up my study space with all my notes and books spread out. Chris thought it would be hilarious to fill my textbooks with fake spider webs and rubber spiders. When I discovered the prank, I was both furious and relieved to see it was just his twisted sense of humor. Another classic move was his habit of sneaking into my room and setting off a loud alarm clock in the middle of the night. It was all in good fun, but it also revealed his tendency to cross boundaries and push people's patience. What I didn't realize was that Chris's charm and pranks had a darker side. You see, Chris had always been somewhat obsessed with me, his little brother. I was the stable one, the reliable one, and he always seemed to have this weird fascination with the life I led. It's like he envied the stability and normalcy I had, and he wanted to shake things up. Looking back, I see that his pranks weren't just about fun. They were about asserting control and disrupting my sense of peace. One particular incident stands out. It was during a family gathering when Chris kept making sly comments about my life with Emily. He would joke about how I was living the dream, while making it seem like he was stuck in the mundane. I brushed it off as him just being his usual self, but in hindsight, it felt like a strange mix of jealousy and admiration. As Emily and I settled into married life, Chris's behavior continued to weave into our relationship in subtle ways. He would drop by unannounced, often making a scene with his usual flair. He'd show up at our place with extravagant gifts or stories of his latest adventures, always trying to be the center of attention. It felt like he was encroaching on our space, but I convinced myself it was just his way of showing affection. One night, after Emily's distance had become unbearable, I finally confronted her. I needed answers. I sat her down and told her how I felt that our relationship had changed. I expressed my frustration and confusion, not knowing what I was about to hear. That's when the truth hit me like a ton of bricks. Emily confessed that she had an affair with Chris while we were still dating. Yep, my wife had been with my brother. The confession was a gut punch. Emily told me it happened while she was still dating me and that it was a mistake she deeply regretted. She explained that after their affair, she decided to end things with Chris. This also explained why she was so adamant about leaving and going home for New Year's that year, even when I begged her to stay. At the time, her sudden departure made no sense to me, but after she spilled the beans, everything fell into place. I remember the exact moment she confessed sitting in our living room. Her words felt like they were suffocating me. The betrayal was almost too much to bear. I was furious, heartbroken, and in complete disbelief. Emily tried to explain that she felt guilty and that it was a mistake she was deeply ashamed of, but the damage was done. The trust was shattered beyond repair, and every time I looked at Chris, I saw the person who had betrayed me the most. To make matters worse, Chris didn't stop at just having an affair. He went even further. A few months after their affair, Emily got pregnant. She told me she was scared and didn't know how to tell me. The idea of my brother's child being raised in our home was too much to handle. The betrayal was deep and the damage was done. The pregnancy was a cruel twist of fate that compounded the emotional devastation. The news was a turning point. Emily and I tried to work through it, but the damage was irreparable. Every time I looked at Chris, I was reminded of the betrayal. It wasn't just about the affair anymore. It was about the broken trust, the shattered illusions, and the family bonds that were irreparably damaged. Emily and I eventually parted ways, and it was one of the hardest decisions I've ever had to make. Chris and I don't speak anymore. It's not just because of what happened with Emily, it's because I can't look at him without feeling a mix of anger and sadness. I thought family was supposed to be the people who had your back, but Chris proved that loyalty is only skin deep. Our relationship has been forever altered by his actions, and it's something I don't think I'll ever fully get over. So, if you're reading this, take it from me, trust your instincts. If something feels off, don't ignore it. It's better to face the painful truth than to live in a lie. And sometimes, the people you think you know best are the ones who can hurt you the most. Protect your heart and be wary of those who seem too good to be true.